Welcome everyone to another Friday Crypto Night Live. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel. Share it with someone right now because if you haven't been awake in the last 2 days, Bitcoin has been going down. We need to find out the reason why, and that's why we're here to have a discussion. Smokey, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, good and well, man. Spitty Smiles couldn't be here tonight. He's feeling a bit under the weather, but it's all good. We're ready. So yeah, let's roll.
I think, let's get started. If we look at the charts right now, Bitcoin's been down 10% the last 2 days. A lot of people are saying, this is just a simple correction. It has been up almost 35% since the last run. So this is essentially just a healthy retracement. But if we're also looking at inflation concerns, the comments that's been coming out from the Federal Reserve, James Powell also saying, there's a big concern that a lot of the wealth we're seeing in the world right now has been made in the last 5 years. And at this rate, there's not going to be much left. So we need to start making changes. And I mean, this is putting everyone in a very difficult situation. If we look at gold as well, gold's just been going up all the way. This is showing that people are trying to invest in something that's got an actual value. And it's sad to see that some people aren't necessarily going to the crypto space to actually take less risk, but we can obviously be assured that most of the people driving economic value right now are not the youngsters, are not the 30-year-olds. It is the baby boomers. It is these older generation people. So I think, what do you have to say around Ethereum dropping right now? We've seen it drop more than Bitcoin, and it just seems to be going down even more right now. So I know we reached that level we've discussed earlier. We've broken it. We've said that this might be a bear trap before they go down again. Could this be the downer we're essentially looking for?
Well, we've clearly stated with this move up, numerous times over the course of, I can't actually remember if it was December or the whole of January, but we've been saying, if it doesn't break these key levels that we're referring to, and we can clearly see the $43,500 level that we've mapped out, that we've been speaking about for the last couple of weeks, this is truly a level of value and a key significant level, talking quarterly levels and all of that, it's definitely a level that shows some significance. If we look at the higher time frames on the weekly, just going back to that quickly, we can see that there's been weak rejections from this key level. If we look at the daily chart from a sort of top-down analysis perspective, we can see that even though there was candles that broke above it, there was multiple weak rejections in this zone. So this, down move before it came up was just the last grab of liquidity before seeing sort of this new lower high formation that we saw that formed there. So, looking at that versus this previous high, you can see that there was definitely a shift in the market structure, pointing out once again that market structure is key. This is, market structure is so vital for any trader, for any investor to understand. There's a reason why they say market structure is king, and we can see clearly if you just follow us, over this last 2 months, you can see the way we've mapped out the structure, the way we've explained to you guys, if price does not do this, it will do this. Everything has played out up until that point. Now, last week, it looked quite bullish, the previous week, but we said clearly, guys, this needs to hold above this level. And if it doesn't hold, it's going to come and target the lows. We've clearly stated that. We've showed it in our reports, in the binocular report that we have for our members. We've clearly stated this for the guys in the know. And I mean, our members have been following that diligently. And the proof is in the pudding. So we need to obviously respect and look at what is market structure telling us. This is not a show where we give you guys our opinion. We show you factual based results and our stuff plays out. Now, we could also be wrong, but at this current time and looking at our track record over the past, 2 months as a bare minimum, because we've obviously been trading for longer than that. But if we just look at live shows, every single show, we've almost called a drop. So that's why I say market structure is king. and this is why we teach it in the TradeAcade University as our foundation class. Everything to do with market structure, including strategies. It is so crucial. If you cannot read the market and you do not understand the market structure, you are not going to get the direction of the market correctly. So coming back to the charts and looking at the market structure, what can we see? What are the facts and not opinions? We can see that this was the previous higher low formation, and that this move here was the most recent, the all-time high, the $69,000 level for Bitcoin. We have then recently came down to this sort of higher low formation, but we did not break above this $43,500 level, which indicates to us that price needs to come down. You've said it, there's not enough money to push this thing down.
There's not. There's not enough money right now. And if you can see more money going into gold right now, people would only be investing in gold right now if some of these big people are looking for longer term reserves, or until the big economic collapse kind of happens. You know, inflation is all-time high right now. Something needs to happen. A big pop needs to happen, or some big change needs to happen. You know, a big COVID relief, or there's no war that's going to happen. But we're waiting for a new big announcement that could essentially divert the new trend, whether Bitcoin is for the time being going up or down right now.
Look, you know, I don't want to go into all the shit that me and you trade, but just looking at gold, and I mean, myself and you, we've been trading gold quite actively this week. It's been a phenomenal week for gold. But looking at the volatility of this beast and looking at where the market is and looking at Russia and Ukraine, we can clearly see that people are scared. People are trying to sort of stabilize and protect their capital. And this is why they come to gold and silver. Silver also another thing. We didn't trade it this week though. But if we look at silver, it also had nice volatility this week. But just looking at gold, you know, this is definitely where, if we look at all the financial markets, you look at where the money flow is. We spoke about the stock market last week. I said it was going to go down. I told you guys earlier in the private chats, look for this drop. You know, stock market's coming down, Bitcoin's coming down. Gold, as you've mentioned, is going up, and we saw these moves, these big moves. I mean, this is on the weekly, so it doesn't look that massive, but believe me, when you trade stuff, the stuff that we trade, these moves, you are feeling this volatility. And you can see
it's scary. It's scary to be in the market at these kind of times. I remember this whole week, we've kind of seen phases where things just did not play out, and it's not because your strategy or your risk management has been perfect. It's just there is such extreme uncertainty in the market right now that everything is volatile.
For sure. I mean, we expected, you know, gold to rally much earlier this month, but we also, you know, we're watching the news, and based on the news, we said, listen, Russia, Ukraine, it's going to infiltrate by Wednesday, so we're going to see a drop by Wednesday. It didn't necessarily happen. We saw the same with, you know, Bitcoin, although it's not always the opposite of gold, it does form, you know, sometimes some patterns in sort of correlation with gold. But what we saw this week, just looking at, this is on the 15-minute chart, but looking at this week and just sort of recapping this week on, when was it? Wednesday, what was Wednesday? 18th today, so 2 days ago, right? So this is Friday, Thursday, and then Wednesday. So Wednesday, we had this bit of a push up. It couldn't quite break the previous day's high when we saw that rally again on Tuesday, and it started pushing down. But, you know, we were expecting a push down, which only came much later on the Wednesday. And then Thursday, you know, a textbook, you know, sort of pullback and correction. We saw that happening on Bitcoin. But now the big question is, why is Ethereum dropping? We can see guys like, what's that guy, that billionaire, what's his name? Is it Michael Cuban?
Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban, sorry, Michael. You know, he's heavily invested in Ethereum and Polygon, and he's looking for the next sort of big thing in crypto. Now, looking at and just going to the chart on Ethereum, you know, wait, we're on the
look at it. It's big. It's way down right now. Just looking at the price, Bitcoin being, you know, 1.5% down, Ethereum being 4.5% down. it's dropping tremendously a bit more than Bitcoin is. And there's two sides to it. So when you look at what the community is kind of saying, one part of the community is saying, it's because Ethereum is a smaller market cap, you're obviously seeing smaller moves. But the other side of the community, which I do think is true, is saying that not only does Ethereum actually have competitors, but they still haven't fixed the biggest problem with Ethereum, which is the fees. And if you're going into an economic recession like we are now, fees is a big problem. So overall, you're going to see the projects that are expensive to transact on going to be hit the hardest, because people not only want to get their money away as quickly as possible, but to do these things is now costly, and you want to save as much money as possible, especially in a bear market. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this weekend. As we usually know, kind of, when we see this volatile things happen in the week, it's usually a build up for some big event coming in the start of that Monday or Sunday.
Look, we also need to take into consideration, where are we in the month of Feb? We are currently at the 18th. We passed the halfway point of the month. Now that means typically we are going into a retracement where we are now, into sort of the last week of the month. Now, keeping in mind, looking at the data and looking at how price moves over the last couple of years, you can always see in the price action, and this is purely my opinion based on my analysis on looking at pure price action and studying the markets, but looking at what the price is doing typically on a February month, we note that a spike always happens very late in the month of Feb to the downside, not the upside, but the downside. Why? Because February is typically a shorter month, and people typically think like, oh, I've got time till the 31st and stuff, but they forget like, oh, it's only till the 28th, or if it's a, what's that other skrikkeljaar, then, there's obviously another day. But typically with, February, people misjudge their timing and stuff, and we can see like with Feb, it's normally a thing. But looking halfway through the month, for a peak formation in the second or third week of the month, we typically expect that, and then we see a down move into the last week of the month. Similar to what it is when you're working in retail and you're behind the counter and stuff. Your last week and your first week is normally your busiest time when working in retail, because that's when people get paid. So that's where there's cash flow and people tend to buy. And then your second to third week is normally sort of a dead zone depending on the type of industry. Now, crypto market is not that different, because people still, pay at certain times. Yes, there is, some people that pay bi-weekly, but the majority of people pay at the end of the month. So your 25th to the sort of last day of the month is typically where most people pay, and that is where you normally see a little bit of an increase. Now, keeping in mind, you've got obviously futures expiring and all this, jazz, which, for me, I don't personally necessarily believe that is the only factor that the market drops around the end of the month, because I also believe there's a lot more traders in the market, because, looking at Binance alone, there's over 15 million traders. So there's 15 million people at some point, not necessarily all of them, that need to take some cash for a salary to pay themselves, to pay their bills and stuff. So there is going to be, those kinds of volatility. But coming back to the point and not going on about the sort of rant and rave, is that Ethereum, in my opinion, follows Bitcoin. Bitcoin, as we always say, is the lead indicator for all crypto market. Now, we can see Bitcoin is still in this sort of downward trend. It has not broken structure in any way or form, from a support resistance, trend line, and all this, retail strategies and all that. Even though we still are retail because we are small, but the reality is it has not shown us intent to go up. This little rally that we saw, a week ago, I was telling you guys, like, it looks great.
We said it was going to be a bear trap. We said it's most likely going to be a bear trap to capture some of the retail investors before the market's going to go down. Because if we look at what's happening in the world right now, the markets are not ready to go up.
For sure. So, coming back to the story, Bitcoin wasn't ready to come down. We could already see it, earlier this week, well, actually last weekend already, we already, spoke about it on Friday's show last week. We already said it. And, but that happened on Friday last night. We had a retracement. And we saw sort of this sort of sideways consolidation, accumulation. I still explained the sort of my take on the snowflake effect of the Wyckoff theory, with the distribution model, and look where we are now. We had a nice pullback, a nice deep sort of, pullback into this sort of, candle range, and then we saw this nice little short movement happening here. Now, Ethereum, similar move. Look at this. It's very similar to what Bitcoin is. If I pull my two charts here, let's hope it pulls nicely. Now it's going to throw out my color scheme, and it's on JP PJ. Oh, wow. When last did I try that? Any case, but if we look at the pattern and we just go to Bitcoin and we look at, Ethereum, this is on the 4 hour. So let's go on the 4 hour here. Look at this. Look at that move here. This sort of, call it a double top, or sweep of liquidity, whatever you want to call it. And then look at this correction here. Look at this correction. Tell me that is not identical.
Like we've seen, we're always going to see that correlation between, I think, between Bitcoin and Ethereum, especially as the two biggest coins. But that's what we want to try and see. What is the big reason? Even though Bitcoin and Ethereum are very close to each other, what could be the big reason for Ethereum actually falling above Bitcoin?
Well, I'm going to tell you this, and a lot of people and viewers might not agree with me. If you agree with me, type yes. If you disagree with my statement, type no in the comments. We'd really like to see what you guys think and what your thoughts is on this. But in my opinion, I always say, show me the charts, I'll show you the news. Now, I know it's a common saying, it's not my own words, but it's the honest truth. Market structure does not lie. If you can master market structure, you will, to some degree or extent, master the market. You won't completely master it, because it's like boxing. Boxing is one of the most basic martial art forms, or fighting forms, one of the oldest, and yet no one, maybe Floyd Mayweather, has mastered it. But looking at the chart and looking at these massive moves that Ethereum has done, at some point in time, this has to correct these moves. Price cannot simply go up the whole time. It has to correct. It has to, create a balance between supply and demand. If we look at the stock market as well, and I'm going to finish with this. If we look at the stock market as well, let's look at the S&P 500. We can see the exact same thing. This thing has been going for days. I mean, it's more than days, but just the same. Look at this move here. Do you not think this thing is going to correct at some point? And what can we see now currently? If we want to talk Elliott way, we can argue that this is an ABC correction. So, once we break these lows of 4,200, we are going to see a continuation down. This is going to pull the crypto market and majority of the, financial markets down. So this affects this. I'm not saying this is the only thing that you need to look for, because we've got multiple factors. We trade multiple instruments on a daily, weekly basis, so we don't just look at certain things. This is just one of the examples, so please just make sure that you understand it. But this is one of the things that we look at, and you can see that it's playing out. And there's a reason why we have been, correct in reading the market the way we have, and why our price points play out. I mean, we can show you multiple charts. So I think that's it from me. Just to finish off, again, we've spoken about it. I've mentioned it maybe more than 3 times in this show tonight. But if you want to understand more about market structure, go check out TradeAcade.com. That is our website. We've got all the course material on there. We've got the binoculars report on there. If you're unsure and you've got a friend in the Moonacade team, chat to them. But go on to the TradeAcade website. Go check out the complete course on mastering market structure. That will tell you, just that course alone will give you so much information about market structure. The things I wish I knew when I started, 4 years ago in this trading journey. It's absolutely vital that everyone understands this basics. It's one of the things that's most overlooked, but it's super, super crucial. So check it out, let us know. And if you like and subscribe to our content, please hit the button below and you'll get the latest updates when the new shows are launching. We are going to shift some things around and do some new shows. So please like, subscribe, and hit that bell below so that you can see when the new content is coming out. We're working on a lot of things behind the scenes. So watch the channel and watch the space. Thanks, guys. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next week.
Cool, guys. Enjoy the weekend. I think, Smokes, I agree with you. Let's see what the market's going to bring. We're probably going to go down. I think this weekend is definitely going to tell us what's going to happen. So, yeah, I think other than that, keep an eye on the stocks. Whether you're trading Forex, the stocks, or crypto right now, it's volatile. So, guys, stay safe this weekend. Please like, share, and subscribe. And then we'll see you next week. Cheers.